This is Binghamton Now on News Radio 1290 WNBF Binghamton and WNBF.com.
Experience holiday cheer at Tanger Outlets with savings up to 70% off your favorite brands. From fragrances to accessories and the latest styles, discover the best gifts for everyone on your list. Save big at Nike Factory Store, Michael Kors, Under Armour, Coach, Polo Ralph Lauren, Kate Spade New York, and so many more. Unwrap the best at Tanger Outlets. Hundreds of brands, endless gifting options. Plan your trip at Tanger.com.
This is Bob Joseph, Binghamton Now on the air for Monday, December 16th, 2024. WNBF. And coming up on our Monday program, we'll be taking some phone calls. So if you have things that you would like to talk about, maybe something happened over the weekend. Maybe you saw a drone land on your driveway or maybe in your backyard. Whatever, you can talk about it. That's coming up later this hour on the Monday edition of Binghamton Now. We start the program today with author Joseph Dougherty, who has written a book, Rod Serling at 100, One Writer's Acknowledgement. And Mr. Dougherty joins us now from the Los Angeles area. Good morning.
Good morning. Thanks for asking me in.
Well, it's great to have you with us talking about one of our favorite topics in Binghamton, Rod Serling, who grew up right here in Binghamton, just about 2 miles west of where I'm standing. He spent some of his key years, his early years here in Binghamton, playing on the west side at Recreation Park and going to Binghamton Central High School. And here we are, just a few days away from the 100th anniversary of his birth. Sadly, we lost Rod Serling way too early, but we continue to celebrate his legacy, celebrate his contributions, whether from the Twilight Zone and other TV endeavors or movie endeavors. He just had a profound impact on so many people around the world, including you. And tell me a little bit of what prompted you to write this appreciation for Rod Serling, especially at this important time as we look back 100 years after his birth.
Well, I think the 100th anniversary, which is he was born on Christmas Day, and he says he was his parents' unexpected Christmas present. I was either my parents were indulgent or neglectful, but they let me watch the original Twilight Zones when I was a kid, and had a tremendous impact on me. And I'm not shy about saying I don't think I would have had a career in television if I hadn't been exposed to his writing and his approach to the world and his approach to storytelling. And you're right, he died in 1975 at the age of 50, which is a tremendous loss to all of us because he was transitioning, I think, at that point from actively writing television to being a remarkable teacher. I believe he was at Ithaca at the time. I had a chance to meet him briefly at SUNY Albany and was so gobsmacked I really couldn't talk to him properly. And I think I've spent the past 50-some-odd years regretting that I hadn't had a real conversation with him. So I said, well, maybe I can have that conversation now and write about his writing, write about what kind of a writer he was, the impact he's had on television. You could say he was the first showrunner. He was the first, there had been hosts of television programs, but there had never been a writer of that status who simply stood there in one, looked you in the eye and said, these stories are handmade objects, and we're going to tell you some stuff we think you need to know for the next half hour.
Well, he took this role, he took it seriously, and it's interesting to look back on just how engaged in the world he was, even when he was in school here in Binghamton, even at Binghamton High School. He certainly was paying attention not just what was going on around here. It was Binghamton and beyond. He certainly was outspoken on many topics, even while he was at Central High School here in Binghamton. And every once in a while, some of his views, I think, rubbed a few people the wrong way, but he had the courage of his convictions.
He was, and he always did. He was class of 43 at Binghamton High School, and 3 days after graduation in 1943, he enlisted to fight in World War II, which was probably one of the defining aspects of his life and the way he writes. I kind of think about Serling as swinging back and forth between what he experienced in World War II, which was quite. He was in the Pacific Theater and was a decorated soldier. As a matter of fact, his headstone doesn't identify him as a writer; it identifies him as a veteran. But there you have the man at his best and his worst in war, and his other experience is Binghamton, which was, he again constantly said, "This is my hometown. This is the place I remember." And Binghamton shows up in many different ways in the Twilight Zone and in other pieces, and in an attitude he has towards justice and tolerance. Things that unfortunately sometimes get you in trouble if you start to talk about them. But Binghamton is a feeling, and then sometimes it's an actual thing. The carousel and recreation park was very important to him, and shows up in some of his best writing, particularly an episode called Walking Distance, about a man who tries to go back to his hometown as an adult and finds sometime the past belongs in the past, and you have to look to the future. He carried that town with him, I'm sure, to his dying day.
Well, the people of Binghamton miss him. One of the things I noticed as this year we were preparing for the unveiling of the statue of Rod Serling at Recreation Park, I was looking back on some of the things that he did in this community in the years leading up to his death, and I was struck at how often he made some appearances on TV or at the high school or in front of various civic groups giving speeches. When he could, even though he was no longer living in the Binghamton area, when he was able, he wanted to be able to speak to people, young people and adults, talk about his views and try to share his perspective on a wide array of issues. And it shows that even though he could have gotten caught up on in sort of the Hollywood, being part of the Hollywood machine or the so-called Hollywood elite, he never lost sight of the fact that he grew up here in upstate New York, and he still had friends here, and he still wanted to spend as much time here when it was possible, when he could work it in with the other responsibilities he had.
I think it was a real anchor for him. I think it was a touchstone. Even as you say, even when he was in Hollywood and he said, I've got a Cadillac as big as a boat, and I can enjoy myself out here. But I don't think he ever completely lost touch with that. And I think his experience in Binghamton High School, it was one of the shaping events for him. And he, throughout his career, the people he honored most often in his writing were teachers. He took education very seriously. He felt, and as I think when a man like that stands in front of you and talks to you about his views, I think one of the things he's doing is asking you to think about your views and what you've done to support yourself and what you've done to speak out and do things. He was a man who believed very much in personal freedom and the kind of world that he wished we had, where we kind of paid a little bit more attention to each other. And here we are. We're 60 years since the first broadcast airing of The Twilight Zone, and we're still talking about this man's work. It still has relevance. Since my book came out, I've been doing a little press, and everyone I've talked to, they remember the show, and they will, and all of the interviews, to a certain extent, always turn into my favorite episodes. He had something to say, and he said it in a tight, dramatic way. I say that certainly there's an urgency to Rod Serling's writing. I don't know. His father died at 53. Maybe he was thinking he didn't know how much time he had. But there is an urgency to his writing, and you feel it. It comes off the screen. It comes off the page. And that's just been the thing that's kind of powered my career. He's always been, for a writer like me, Rod Serling has always been someone to show me what I can reach for. And I think that's what people respond to. I think that statue is a tremendous overdue tribute. I know it took a while for it to get there, and I think it's a success. And I'm going to try. I missed the unveiling. I was back east, but I wasn't able to stay around long enough for the unveiling in Serling Fest, and I hope to get back there next September and participate in the fest, which is something I've always wanted to do.
Well, I think you will be impressed with the work they did. And the more I thought about it, I had covered the saga because it turned into sort of a long-running effort to finally make that larger-than-life statue of Rod Serling a reality. I thought that was actually important that it didn't happen quickly, that somebody didn't just say, oh, just tell me how much you need, I'll write a check, and the statue could be made, and it would be there. And I don't think the community would have as much appreciation, but a lot of people donated individually, other groups worked to make it happen, and it took a lot of collaboration with the Rod Serling Memorial Foundation, the City of Binghamton, the State of New York with Assemblywoman Donna Lupardo. Everybody really had to work together to make the statue a reality.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to seeing the statue, but I'm also looking forward to looking at the bricks, the plaques that surround the statue with the names of the donors, and some of them with thoughts about why they contributed. It's something. I mean, he's an American writer who's been gone more than 50 years, but he still has an impact on culture. He has an impact on television. He has an impact on the way we tell stories. And he was a fairly modest man. I don't think he thought his writing. This is the other thing I kind of wanted to correct in the book. Was it opens with a quote from something he said kind of close to his death, saying, "Well, I don't really think my writing is for the ages. I think it was momentarily, acceptable." But he was such an honest man. He was such an honest writer. I don't think he ever wrote a single word he didn't believe in. That his legacy continues, and there's no better example of that than the way he treated Binghamton and the way Binghamton treated him.
Makes me wonder, had he lived, had he not died of complications after heart surgery in June 1975, say if he were still with us and about to turn 100 years old, what he would think about what's transpired, especially over the last couple of decades with the rise of social media and a lot of the conflicts that we see right here in this country, political conflicts and other things that had happened to a degree during his lifetime, but some of the division that we've seen in recent years, be interesting to get his perspective and get his take on what has happened here in the 21st century to the United States and to the world. It
would be interesting. I think he would be a little frustrated. I think he might have thought we would be a little further along by now. I think, someone asked me about this the other day, and I said, I think at this point, if he had lived to be 100, because he talked about how hard television was as a place to work. He said he said the television production of the series was not a job for anyone over 40. I know he was a great teacher. I think he would still be teaching. And I think what he would be teaching would be that writers should be engaged and should write about it. The great thing about Rod is that he got very frustrated in the late 50s because he felt he wasn't able to say what he wanted to say in regular drama. And he turned to science fiction and fantasy. as a place to talk about things where he wouldn't, quote, get in trouble with sponsors. So I think what he would be saying to writers today would be, look at what's around you, but project it onto another canvas and take a little distance from the conflicts you see today and write about them in a slightly different way. You'll be able to write about them more clearly if you're not bogged down with the news. Some of his, the 25-minute Twilight Zones, the best of them, and even the weakest of them have something to say. But the best of them are parables, profoundly simple stories told powerfully in 25 minutes. And stay with you, people. You've experienced it. Everyone's experienced. I remember when I saw this story. I remember Monsters Due on Maple Street. I remember the fever. I remember Burgess Meredith breaking his glasses. Look for the images and I think he would tell people to be focused. I honestly think he'd be doing more teaching if he was alive right now.
I bet he would. Rod Serling at 100, One Writer's Acknowledgement, is the book written by Joseph Dougherty. If people want to see the book, which they do, go to the usual places.
By all means, go to the usual places. Go to Amazon.com and to the publisher, Fayetteville Mafia Press.
Mr. Dougherty, a pleasure, and I hope we have a chance to meet next September if you are able to make it to Binghamton for Serling Fest.
I'll put it in the calendar. This has been a particular pleasure because it's talking to Binghamton.
And we have so much more to talk about. Look forward to continuing our conversation.
We will do that.
Thank you. Hope you have a great day.
Done. You too. Thanks a lot for asking me.
Bye-bye. It's 1027. WNBF Binghamton Now with Bob Joseph. Our number is 607-772-1290. If you want to talk about Rod Serling, especially as we approach the 100th anniversary of his birth. He was born on December 25th, 1924. And that's the 100th anniversary now. It's just over a week away. Hard to believe. Or you could talk about anything else, whatever's on your mind. We're here for you on this Monday morning, 92.1 FM, 1290 AM, on air at WNBF.com. A glorious Monday morning, mild temperatures here in the Binghamton area, at least for the next few days, so that's something to celebrate. Let's get some calls on the air right now. We begin in Johnson City with Carol. Good morning. You're on the air.
Hi, Bob. How are you?
I am well. How are you?
I am great. I had a foot doctor appointment this morning, so I thought I missed a whole bunch of stuff, but you didn't start until 10.
That is true. Right? That is true. I had to go out and grab myself coffee.
Okay, well, I have just a little snippet of a story about Rod Serling, but I basically called to talk about the AM situation radio with cars. Okay, but back in 1968, when my husband and I had a little runaround boat up at Hibiscus Harbor, and Rod Serling was living in a house around that very lake, and we would sleep on the boat. It had like a little cover, and so my husband went to eat a breakfast over at the coffee shop there, and I chose to not go. Well, guess who he saw there? And I'm still kicking myself from 1968. Rod Serling walked in and had breakfast at that coffee shop. And
the Rod Serling?
Yes, the Rod Serling, and I missed seeing him, and I'm still, like I said, kicking myself over the whole story.
I never saw him. I never met him. I mean, I saw the things he did on TV on Twilight Zone and other things, but I never met him. Never had the chance. I just always felt disappointed that I never met him, never interviewed him.
You have no idea how often I think about that. But, right now, I'm sitting in front of my daughter's house. I had her go out to her car because I have lost all my AM stations. Do you think that... well, she didn't lose her AM stations, and I thought that the government or Subaru or somebody, if they have power over my car, I don't know what the heck I could have done wrong or pushed some wrong button, but I cannot get any AM station. I even called Bill Flynn Sunday morning and talked to Mr. Bixby because he's the tech guy, over at WBNG.
Yeah, and he's a tech guy here at WNBF too.
Yeah, yes, and so he checked and he said, "No, the station's working." And he says, "Do the other stations work?" And I checked and I go, "Oh my God, all my AM stations are gone." So,
well, maybe something happened. How old is your car? Is it a new car?
No, it's 5 years old.
Well, something probably happened with a setting, and I'm not familiar with Subarus, so I have no idea what could have happened. But sometimes a setting gets changed in terms of, and it could happen with your radio or other electronic things. The setting gets changed, and then if it's not in the status it's supposed to be, then your whatever it is you're trying to use is essentially useless until somebody resets it. So hopefully you're going to find somebody who's familiar with that type of Subaru.
I'm taking a ride down to the dealer after I leave my daughter's house.
Oh, yeah, they should be able to help you. And let me know. My guess is they'll be able to say, here's what you have to do. Switch this over to that, and then you'll be able to hear us fine.
When I had my Honda CR-V, if you were changing batteries, you had to have a code even to get your radio back. There was like a 4 or 5 digit code just to reactivate your radio. So I don't know. That was Honda though. So I don't know what the heck is the story on this, but I will let you know. And I'm glad I called Mr. Bixby and asked them.
Yeah, well, and the other thing is somebody who's listening right now, maybe they know what happened, because it may happen with other radios. I haven't heard of this specific problem, but there's probably a simple solution, okay?
Well, tell me, what do you know about that commercial that's always on the radio about, is it the government that they want to do away, or the car dealers want to do away with the AM radio?
Well, car dealers really don't give a darn. It's car manufacturers, and here's the dirty little secret, and they don't even say it in the announcements about trying to keep AM radio in all cars sold in the U.S., but the dirty secret is the real reason why car manufacturers want to eliminate AM radio and then FM radio eventually is because they want to own the dashboard. They see an opportunity to make a lot of money, and once they eliminate over-the-air radio, which you get for free, then they're going to offer subscription services, whether it could be music services or other program services, and they'll get a monthly fee, and that could also ultimately mean millions, or maybe over the long haul, billions of dollars. That's what it's really about.
That's terrible.
Yeah, it is terrible. That is terrible. I mean, they have every right. If they think people at some point really don't want AM radio in their cars, they would have a right not to include AM radio. But right now, millions of people still listen to AM radios, and they want AM radio in their car. If they buy a 2025 car, not only do they want an AM radio in the car, they want one that sounds good. That's one of the other things, is car manufacturers over the last several years have put very little effort into coming up with AM radios that sound very good, because they've done it intentionally. They think, oh, well, almost everything now on AM is news talk, and so it doesn't have to be high quality. No. The way I look at it, it should be the highest quality. The audio quality on AM should be as high as it used to be. It not just be, obviously, most of the time, most AM stations are not playing music. That's beside the point. If people are listening to the news or to talk shows or whatever on an AM station, the audio quality still ought to be exceptional. They shouldn't shortchange the AM audience just because they're a bunch of cheapskates.
Well, I know that I tested all the, 680, 1360, 1430, all those numbers, and nothing is coming across.
Yeah. Now, I remember when I was a kid, even I mean, the car I have now has a decent AM radio, but it's not like the one I had before. I'm telling you, the AM radios in almost all cars, there are a few exceptions, the AM radios that have been put in cars over the last decade, they're intentionally cheap. The car companies have put minimal attention, minimal investment into the AM side of their radios because they think, oh, well, they'll just be satisfied. No, we're not satisfied with mediocre sound. We want the greatest sound. When we're listening to a news program or a talk show, we want it to sound as good as it can.
So tell me one thing. The vote that's going to be taking place, who should we be contacting? Like not our congressman or
you got to call the president-elect. You got to call him.
El Presidente.
Yes. And by the way, he's the one who can get something done. I mean, look, he's the guy with all the power.
I thought you were going to say all the money.
No, he doesn't have all the money. Elon has all the money. Elon Musk has all the money. But I'm serious. If people are concerned about AM radio, they should contact the president-elect. They should contact every member of Congress. If you care about the future of AM radio, if you want to be able to buy a car next year or in 2 years and want to make sure it still has an AM radio, then contact these officials. Because
I'm sure if Rich David got elected, I'd be able to call him and he would look into it.
Yeah, Rich David would see to it that AM radio will always be available in every car.
I hope he's listening.
He probably is. Appreciate your call.
Bye.
Yeah, some people don't understand the car industry. They don't have a thing against AM radio. They have a thing that they want to make money. And don't kid yourself. This is a slippery slope. The car industry has a master plan to eventually eliminate all over-the-air radio from their dashboard. The dashboard is the next source of revenue for the car companies, and they have a plan to sell you a subscription. So all the stuff, whether it's news or talk or music that you've been able to get for free on over-the-air radio, ultimately the car companies don't want you to get it for free. They want you to have a subscription. So you would have to pay a monthly fee or an annual fee to get the stuff that you've gotten for free all your life. That's ultimately what this is about. 10:39 at WNBF. Good morning. You're on the air. What's your first name? Where are you calling from?
Hey, good morning. This is DJ. How's everybody doing in this wonderful?
Oh yeah, haven't heard from you in a long time.
Yeah, I know. So, AM radio has went the way of the answering machine. What I would have told Karen is, all you got to do is check your manual, and it'll tell you what's wrong in your auto manual. But my AM sucks, and I don't need it because we have 92.1, WNBF.com, and the app. So
people should be able to have whatever platform they want. You're right. I personally listen to the station almost all the time on 92.1. I happen to like it. Every once in a while, if I'm in an area where 92.1 isn't coming in clearly, then I'll switch to AM 1290. Or if I'm too far away for even that, then I'll listen on the WNBF app. I know the technology is there, but some people are traditionalists and some people just want to be able to listen to us on AM radio.
That's true. And on some other news, did you know that while you were sleeping, Israel destroyed most of Syria, all their weapons capabilities, all their ability to camp by the border now that Assad's gone? They thought they were going to camp by our border and start building again. And Jacob, who became Israel, said, oh, no, we not having that. And they totally obliterated a lot of Syria. So that's happening. And you know what, Bob? I'm convinced. The other day I was listening, and Dave from Vestal was talking. Hi, Dave. And he was talking about Elon Musk and President Trump, and my brother has that theory. And I believe that's true. And I told my daughter this morning when she messaged me from South Carolina, I think that if me and Bob Joseph were billionaires, and Bob was the president and I was a billionaire, And we were doing this, sending all these drones, because I, being the multi-billionaire, could make them and send them out. I wouldn't tell Joe Biden and the big guy or any other corrupt government who's not, what we are. They're not like us. They're pro-death, not pro-family, and not pro-Israel, because he told Israel to stop defending themselves.
Oh, so you think Elon Musk is behind this?
Elon Musk and his new best friendy.
Yeah, well, could be. Could be. I think, isn't it interesting that this is coming up at the time of year that we should all be focused on the holidays? It sounds like there's some bad people, and you know who I'm talking about, bad people who don't want us to enjoy the holidays. And unfortunately, it's terrible. I think once they find the miscreants responsible for this drone scare, I think they ought to be required to make an apology on this program.
Yes, the same people who bombed us on October 7th.
Well, fortunately, yeah, nobody bombed us on October 7th. But yes, there were terrorist attacks on October 7th. Fortunately, the United States, we've been very, very fortunate in recent years. And let's hope that our good fortune can be maintained. At this point, it's hard to know what to expect. And I'm thinking, maybe there's some people who don't want us to enjoy the holidays. The holidays are just around the corner. And as I thought about it this morning when I was on First News Binghamton, just out of the blue, it finally occurred to me, we're not going to be able to enjoy a traditional New Year's Eve at Times Square if these drones are still posing a problem, because I can't believe NYPD and Homeland Security and Kathy Hochul would allow a large gathering to take place in Times Square on New Year's Eve if we still don't know who's responsible for all the drones. It would be a public safety issue. So it seems to me that's probably what they want to do. They want to wreck our holidays. It's basically a war on Christmas is what this drone thing looks like. A war on Christmas and New Year's and every other holiday that Americans look forward to celebrating. And yet, will you hear Sean Hannity talk about it? No. It's the war on the holidays, and yet for some reason, most of the media, I think, is just ignoring this. What a shame. We should be able to celebrate the last 2 weeks of the year without being worried about bad actors and their bad drones. 607-772-1290. It's Binghamton Now on WNBF. WNBF, WNBF.com. Mary in Endicott, good morning.
Good morning. How are you this morning?
Great. How are you?
Okay. I love listening to your interviews. They're so interesting. And there's a electoral college going on in Albany today and tomorrow. And why they picked New York State, I have no idea. But I have never actually looked into the electoral college and how it works. And they have taken their state troopers up there just in case. And it's today and tomorrow. And I was wondering if anybody had any information on how they do this, how they were elected. Is there two from each state? It would be very interesting to hear more about it, as long as we know what's going on here.
All right. Yeah, if any of our listeners know, or maybe somebody in Albany is listening and they can call in between now and noon.
Yeah, I would love to know how they actually work. Do they spend most of their time eating lunch or eating
Probably.
dinner?
My guess is they're hanging out at the Albany Chick-fil-A. They were going to do it yesterday till somebody pointed out the place was closed, so they had to hold it today so they could have plenty of chicken sandwiches.
Lucky them.
Yeah. Well, okay, we'll try to find out if anybody has the information. They're invited to call in and tell us what's going on up there.
Okay, thank you very much.
Thanks. It's 10:49 at WNBF. Dave and Vestal, you're on the air.
Good morning, sir. Hey, I see you played the real Elvis there.
Yeah, not that pretend guy.
I know. Hey, earlier I heard you played, what was it? Blue Oyster Cult. Don't fear the reefer. That's for you, Bob, because you seem to fear the smell all over Binghamton. Hey, what I want to talk about, Bob, and I won't take up your time, but music, Bob. You guys were talking about the AM radio there, and I remember when I bought my very first album, and I've been thinking about, before I get to that, we celebrate Sterling's birthday just about every year, just with that sci-fi, with that marathon they have. But you realize it's on 1 week after his birthday every year. It's pretty cool. I look at it as a way of celebrating his birthday. But back to the music, Bob. My very first album, I think it was 1968. I was like 12 years old, and it was a Donovan album. So when you go back to heaven one day in the month where we can talk music, I'd like to hear. Can you remember, Bob? Can you remember your first vinyl album that you bought?
No, I think I'm trying to remember. The first CD I bought was Talking Heads 77, so that helps give you a sense of. Let's see, I bought 4 CDs: Talking Heads, 10,000 Maniacs, I think. Oh, Tracy Chapman, the one that had Fast Car. I love Fast Car. And what was the fourth one? Because I bought 4 CDs. I don't remember the first vinyl I bought. Before I was really buying albums, we grew up in a part of Endicott where we didn't have a lot of money to spend on records. So I used to call up the radio station there. They would have a contest, and then if you were the correct caller, you could stop by their station and then pick out an album. So that's how I got a few albums from that radio station that used to be there on East Main Street in Endicott.
See, and my paper route money, Bob, it was donated all to 45 albums, ice cream cones, and popsicles. That's
well, I admit that I ultimately, after I got my paper route, I spent a lot of my newspaper money at Woody's Records and probably at Pat Mitchell's. So, hey, it's better than that than, buying a bunch of weed and fentanyl.
You're right. Right, but I'd be curious, Bob, if they can remember their first vinyl album. When we get to the music day, I'll bring that back up again.
Yeah,
right?
Maybe we'll do a music day this week. I'll think about it. I might do a music day. I don't know. Maybe tomorrow. Maybe Wednesday. I don't know. Stay tuned. We'll do it. We'll try to do, at a minimum. We'll try to do at least a music hour, or maybe a whole music day. I mean the last time I did a music day, I received a lot of praise from people on email and even people I ran into. They said, that was great fun. So I'm thinking of doing another one in the next couple of days.
Of course, Bob. It's a lot of fun. Okay.
Thanks.
Have a good one.
Yep, you too. 10:52 WNBF. Yes, we probably are going to wind up doing something focused on music, similar to what we did a few weeks ago, because I didn't hear anybody complain about it. And by the way, when we do our next music day, you won't be limited to only music. So if you hear me say, oh, surprise, congratulations, it's another Binghamton Now Music Day, doesn't mean you can't talk about anything else. We won't exclude non-music topics, but we will encourage music topics for those who celebrate music. And there's a lot to celebrate, not just, say, your first vinyl 45 or your first vinyl album or first CD. It is kind of sad these days that we've all gotten away from going out and buying something and, I'll just download it. Well, yeah, it's nice that you can do it. The technology is great. But I know so many people, when it comes to movies, TV shows, music, almost anything, they take the stuff now for granted. Now you can watch almost any TV program, any TV episode, or almost any movie whenever you want in the comfort of your home. And that's another thing. You don't have to go out. You don't venture out. I just saw a relatively new release movie. I didn't even realize just how fresh it was. And then I'm thinking, wait, that's barely been out. And we're here watching it. Oh, yeah, this is great. And I do love that the technology allows it, but I don't like the fact that now so many people are getting to the point, no, I don't think I want to go outside and do anything. Yeah, but it's a nice night. Let's go and see a movie. Well, I don't know. That's too much trouble. We have to drive to Vestal, or we have to drive to Front Street. Yeah, so it's a 7-minute drive. I know, but then you have to park the car and actually walk from the car into the lobby and buy a ticket, and then you have to wait, and then you have to watch all the upcoming features and some of the commercials. And it's like, come on, that's all part of the fun. You see coming attractions. See, I admit, a lot of people are amazed at the number of really big movies that I've never seen. Hey, I just chose not to see. I typically don't go to see the really big, most highly touted movies. I'm looking for stuff that's a little more off the beaten path. Good stuff, but not necessarily the type of movies that everybody's talking about. ABC News covering the nation and the world in 4 minutes here on WNBF. And, of course, then we'll take more phone calls on this Monday. Here's a forecast and another rather mild weather period for the Binghamton area, at least as we start the week. Mostly cloudy today, a chance of rain late this afternoon, high 45. Rain tonight, low 42, mostly sunny tomorrow, high 49. Mostly cloudy Wednesday with a slight chance of snow showers in the morning. Some rain showers possible later in the day. Wednesday's high 44. Just a little bit of a heads up. Enjoy this weather right now, this mild break of weather, because looking ahead toward the weekend, it starts to get really cold again. The temperatures on Saturday in the mid-20s. Saturday night, the temperature could drop to about 10. And then Sunday's high temperature, based on the current forecast, would be only 18. So this mild weather is not going to last forever. And since nobody asked, I'll give you the air quality, since it's actually good this morning. Air quality index for Binghamton is 33. So that's good. It's great. Go out there and breathe as much air as you want. Unless you're here in downtown Binghamton, then you're probably going to breathe in so much weed smoke that you won't be able to drive your car. You have to take a time out. I'm Bob Joseph, live and local on a Monday morning on WNBF, WNBF.com. Live in living color on NBF, WNBF. Yes, the program is brought to you live on weekday mornings, 607-772-1290. It's getting to the point where they're going to do drones and traffic together every 10 minutes on the 8s. Maybe we'll do that this hour. Drones and traffic together. The latest drone updates. When you need them. You're never more than 10 minutes away. Should be drones and weather together. That's better. Because around here we don't have that much traffic, but keeping our fingers crossed, maybe we'll get some drones. This could be the week, folks, when Binghamton becomes the epicenter of the game of drones. Hi, WNBF. You're on the air. What's your first name? Where are you calling from?
Joe from Owego.
Hey, what's going on?
Well, a few weeks ago, you made a comment about holding the president-elect responsible for any increase in prices that you may experience based on inflation. I would like probably to carry on this conversation with you after a while to see, but I thought I would clarify my definition of inflation and hope that we basically agree. And inflation to me is increasing cost without increasing value. And I think some of the ways that this occur just basically automatically is an increase in minimum wage, labor union contracts. One of them, I think, was 44% over 5 years. I'm not sure. Tax exemptions, which not directly, but do affect the tax resource revenue, which means it will be relocated somewhere else. But those are three of the ways that I think inflation occurs. And I hope you agree with them, and we will all sit back and see what our president-elect does in terms of things that relate to those.
Well, what we want most of all, I want to see starting January 20th, I want to see grocery prices come down. He talked a lot about grocery prices, so January 20th, as soon as he is sworn in, as soon as he has finished the oath of office, I'm going to click my clicker, and I'm going to go over to Wegmans to watch the prices come down. Maybe I'll take a video to watch as the prices plunge on everyday items.
Can we locate or identify the reasons those prices plunge? That's my point.
Well, because he's going to be president. I don't care about the reasons they go down. I just want the prices to go down because the guy spent, I would say, most of the past year talking about grocery prices and making it sound like the current guy was responsible for high grocery prices. So now I want to see, starting January 20th at 12:01 p.m., I want to see the new guy work his magic.
Okay, well, we'll see if we can both come up with the same.
All right. I think you and I can agree on this. We may not agree on the reasons that prices will be going down, but we will agree that it's about time.
Absolutely. And for the reasons, hopefully, they will be made public and clear, and we can understand them. And that occurs with a whole lot of other things we have discussed.
Well, as long as nobody loses their job, because once people start losing their jobs, doesn't matter if the food or gas prices are cheaper. That means unemployed people won't be able to afford the things they need. So the tough balancing act is going to be for this guy to lower the prices of groceries and gas while keeping employment at an all-time high.
That will be magical.
I know. That's why I'm anxious to see. Especially it comes at such a sad time where just a few days ago we lost the amazing Kreskin. And sadly, Mr. Kreskin is not going to be able to see how this one, perhaps the biggest trick or biggest, I don't know, perhaps it's going to be the biggest economic success story in the history of mankind, exactly how it's pulled off. But it's going to be probably the story of the year.
It will be unique, and whoever tells the tale probably will get a Pulitzer Prize.
All right. Thanks, Joe.
Thank you.
That's the story from Owego, making contemporary news, home of the all-new strawberry. I was just admiring the strawberry a couple days ago and saying, man, that looks juicy. For some reason, it looks even better than it did right after the guy got done carving it and then painting it that strawberry red. For some reason, this weekend it looked better than ever. It's 11:16 at WNBF. Good morning. Telling you, I don't know if it's water in the lines or slush. It's probably slush. Slush gets in the lines. Even the phone company can't do much about it. George Stephanopoulos. Now, there's a name. And nobody has brought this up. I don't understand. I do not understand why nobody has bothered to bring up the George Stephanopoulos story. So, okay, you won't bring it up? I will bring it up. ABC News has settled a defamation suit with Trump for $15 million. So I don't know why our listeners are afraid to bring it up. This should be discussed. According to CNN, ABC News, a division of the Walt Disney Company, ABC News will pay $15 million to a presidential foundation and museum in a settlement reached with Donald Trump in his defamation suit against the network and anchor George Stephanopoulos. The network announced the settlement on Saturday for some reason. It reveals, according to this filing, the network will also pay $1 million in Trump's attorney's fees and issue an apology. ABC News will issue the following statement as an editor's note on the online article at the center of the suit. I will quote it. This is verbatim. ABC News and George Stephanopoulos regret statements regarding President Donald J. Trump made during an interview by George Stephanopoulos with Representative Nancy Mace on ABC's This Week on March 10th, 2024. So that is the statement. An ABC News spokesperson apparently sent an email to CNN that said, "We are pleased that the parties have reached an agreement to dismiss the lawsuit on the terms in the court filing." All right, well, so there you go. What does it all mean? Well, it apparently means that since George Stephanopoulos wouldn't apologize to Donald Trump before now, it means that his employer is going to have to pay $16 million. Now, having said that, $16 million for Walt Disney Company is not that much. It's a lot of money in the grand scheme of things, but it's not like the settlement that Fox reached with Dominion. Remember, Fox had to pay, under their settlement with the Dominion voting company, voting systems, it was nearly $800 million. So this isn't even, this is not even 5% of that. So, yeah, $16 million is a lot of cash, but for Walt Disney Company, trust me, they have big piles of cash. Have you seen how much they're charging people to get into Walt Disney World these days? Hey, with this settlement, $16 million, all that means is they'll probably tack on an extra $7 or $10 to the admission fee to all their amusement parks, and they'll make up that money in about 3 weeks, maybe less. So it'll be their customers who wind up paying the price. 7:20 or 11:20 at WNBF. Good morning. You're on the air. What's your first name? Where are you calling from?
Bob from Lost.
Yeah.
I'm glad you brought that up.
Well, of course. I guess the only thing that makes me sad is nobody else bothered. I mean, are people ashamed to bring up the truth?
You better watch yourself. You've been defaming Trump for 10 years now.
I have nothing to fear. I have nothing to fear from him.
There's there at Town Square, they got $15 million.
They don't have to worry. They don't have to worry about me. They don't employ George Stephanopoulos.
This man for 10 years. Maybe I'll call Donald and see.
Oh, yeah. Go ahead.
You make me sick.
All right. Well, let's give him time to call, make his calls. You know, every time he calls in, you know, talk about a nattering nabob of negativity. You know, it's the happiest holiday season, the happiest season of all for everybody. And if anything, he should have said, thanks for bringing it up, and that's good that George Stephanopoulos didn't have to, as far as I know, Stephanopoulos didn't pay a penny. And as I said, compared to the Fox agreement with Dominion Voting Systems was nearly $800 million. This deal with Donald Trump, it was a deal of a total of $16 million, $15 million for his fabulous new library, which I hope that President Trump will choose Endwell, New York for his presidential library, because that'd be a great thing to have where that McDonald's used to be over on East Main Street where Hooper School was. That's where the new Trump library could be developed. And so $15 million would be a good starting point for the new Trump library, which they could start building there, I would say, as soon as January 21st. Start building the Trump library right there, East Main Street in Endwell. Start using the $15 million ABC is paying to Trump, or paying not to Trump, but for some organization that's going to do the library. So that at least would give them a good head start for a beautiful library at a beautiful spot right across from the Burger King. And then the other $1 million is going to Donald Trump, apparently, to pay his attorney's fees for the case. So I think it's probably a fair agreement. And I think ABC News made the right choice. They wanted to get this little bit of, I don't know how you can describe it. It's a diversion, or it's an unnecessary distraction as we all look forward to January 20th. You want to get all this old stuff, all the previous litigation, take it, clear the books, so everybody starts anew on January 20th, as the new era will begin in just over a month. So it makes sense that they reach the settlement. So George Stephanopoulos, for all we know, Stephanopoulos will wind up getting a job at the new White House. He may be assisting the press secretary. Maybe she needs an assistant. And Stephanopoulos, who's been involved in the White House communications operation in the past, I think Stephanopoulos would do well. Maybe he could help run off copies or whatever, help set up the schedule for the press office, or issue badges to journalists who want to get a press pass at the White House. I think that would be great. You get Stephanopoulos working there, and then he could have another government paycheck like he used to have when he was with the Clinton administration. It's 11:24. Binghamton Now, WNBF 607-772-1290 is the number. You may be listening on air at 92.1 FM or 1290 AM, maybe on your phone or other device, maybe your computer, WNBF.com, or maybe most importantly, you may be listening using the free WNBF app. 11:27 with more calls more often. It's Tommy in Binghamton. Tommy in Binghamton. Good morning. You're on the air.
Hey, let's get controversial for a minute.
All right, let's.
If someone kills a pregnant woman, it's considered a double homicide. So why isn't abortion considered murder? I just want to put that question out there.
All right, we'll put it out there. I appreciate your call. Yeah, that's, I don't know. That's actually, why don't we wait till afternoon so people can answer that question to a nationwide audience when Dan Bongino is on? Because it's such a big question. I don't think we can actually handle a question of that magnitude on a local program. Jesse from Owego writes via the email regarding ABC. $15 million ABC pays Trump. $1 million George pays out of pocket, so I heard last night. I'm not sure if that's true or not. Well, that's the first I'm hearing about it, Jesse. I mean, I'm not saying it's not true. It's the first I've heard. I see no indication that George Stephanopoulos has to pay a penny, but if so, I think it's wrong. I mean, it doesn't seem fair. I think the whole thing is supposed to be from Walt Disney Company, which runs the news operation. Walt Disney Company, which has really, really big, huge stacks of money. They have some of the biggest stacks of money in America, so I think it makes sense. Stephanopoulos, he doesn't have that kind of money. I mean, look, here's the truth. Trump has a lot more money than George Stephanopoulos has, so it would be unfair to expect a guy who was on a talk show, or in this case, a news interview program, trying to expect Stephanopoulos to come up with that kind of cash. I don't believe that would be fair. 11:29. Let's go back to the phones. Good morning. You're on the air. What's your first name? Where are you calling from?
Martin from Binghamton, Bob.
Hey, good morning, Martin. What's up?
Yeah. Hey, good morning. Yeah, on Friday I called in and talked about the bizarre statement that Trump said that they had no choice but to attack the officers. Remember that?
Yeah, I do remember that.
Yeah, which was just bizarre. And then there was a guy that emailed in later and said, well, yeah, they had a choice, 2 or 20 years. What were they supposed to do? I said, the chicken or the egg here, Bob. I mean, if they didn't attack them, they wouldn't have to have that choice put in front of their face. But, they were summoned there by their cult leader to...
well, what it comes down to, it's like that book that came out a few years ago, when bad people do bad things. I mean, if you do a bad thing, for example, if you go to an insurrection, be prepared. Be prepared for things that are not going to end well. I think, by the way, for anybody who might be planning an insurrection next month, and I hope they're not, because that's the last thing is we need in this country. The last thing we need is any more trouble. But say if somebody thought the insurrection was so clever in January 2021, let that be a lesson to you. If you try to pull that kind of stuff again in this country, no matter what month it is, it could be January or any other month, if you do that at the nation's capital, be prepared to face some very, very serious and unpleasant consequences.
And they should. Hey, the other thing, Bob, real quick.
Sure, hello? I'm listening.
Yeah. Do you have or have you ever had polio?
No, thankfully I was vaccinated. So fortunately, as a child, my mom got me all the recommended vaccinations, so that was not a concern for any member of my family, fortunately.
You know what I'm talking about here, but RFK's lawyer.
Oh, I know what you're talking about.
Yeah, and I met a very nice man, Italian man, right from the island, a few years back when I was walking a little earlier in Otsonigo, named Nick, and he was walking with a pretty bad limp. And I didn't want to say anything. Were you in the war or whatever happened? No, he had polio. And so right there in front of my eyes, you could see that. At least he wasn't, relegated to breathing machine, anything like that. But, right out of the gate, these guys are going to want to go after that. They said these shots would be optional or whatever. But, speaking of wild, Trump said, let him go wild. I just want the gold. He wants the oil. He wants the Trump. Of course, Trump wants the money, but let him go wild. Let him go wild with health care. And hopefully he'll never even get that job. Because he is one dangerous man.
Well, on the plus side, he's against highly processed foods.
That's true.
So,
most people are.
But actually, if RFK gets into a position of power, if he's the FDA guy, then he might be in a position to finally do something about it and maybe make a positive difference. That's what I'm hearing.
Well, that's a good thing, but also he's against measles, against the measles vaccine and stuff. And we all know what he did over in Samoa. And, 80-some kids died over there. And, just what his premise is about vaccines. They said, well, they would be optional if they wanted them. I don't trust them. I just don't trust him. I don't trust Trump.
What, you mean you don't trust RFK at all? You don't trust RFK at all for anything?
No. And speaking of Mercury, you were talking about that plant. He had over 20 times the allotment in his brain. He had to have, like I mentioned there, use that analogy with religion, like Bill Maher says. When we were kids, remember, they drilled it in our teeth. And just like religion, they drilled it in our heads. When we were kids, you got to drill it back out and make up your own mind, But, the point is that, he had worms in his brain. He had mercury in his... The guy's not right, man. RFK, real freaking kooky. That's all I can say.
Well,
and hopefully...
No. That's not nice. Come on.
Well,
come on. Show a little bit... Come on, Martin. Show a little bit of humanity.
Well, let him show a little bit of humanity.
Well, yes. Both. You and him.
Yeah.
I mean, you don't have to agree with him, but give him some respect. He's been through a lot.
Well,
he has.
Okay,
You have to admit, you don't have to like anything he says, and you don't have to agree with his positions about vaccinations, but you have to admit the kid has been through a lot.
Would you eat roadkill? No.
I wouldn't.
Okay. Well, there you go.
Well,
okay.
Again, I don't condone it, but hey, if he wants to eat that, hey, it's his body. He didn't force anybody else to eat it.
Not yet. Maybe.
Now, I'll tell you what. I will, Martin. I'm going to draw the line. If I hear this kid, now it's one thing for him to do it for himself, and I admit, even I am puzzled by the whole thing, and maybe it turns out not to be true, but the reports appear to be accurate. But if he ever even suggests that they're going to start serving roadkill Speedies here in Broome County. If he ever goes that far, I'm going to have to really speak out loudly and forcefully.
Yeah. Well,
okay.
I don't think lambs will get loose on the highway, Bob.
All right. So, anyway, I'm glad you called in.
All right. Have a good week. Thank you.
Thanks. Yeah. RFK Jr., yes, he has some interesting positions, and his life certainly has been a lot more intriguing than mine, apparently, based on news accounts. But hey, let RFK be RFK. If he wants to take steps against highly processed food in America, my opinion is take some steps, make America healthier. Try to encourage retailers to sell less highly processed food and better food. Why not sell better food? If the prices are going down anyway at the grocery store, which apparently starting January 20th, we can look forward to a new era of low food prices. Yeah, food's going to cost less anyway. Why not sell better quality food at a much lower price? It seems like a combination all Americans will support. It's 11:38 at WNBF. Good morning. You're on the air. What's your first name? Where are you calling from?
Tom from Susquehanna. What I want to talk about is Trump isn't even in office yet, and people are already criticizing. They're criticizing everything instead of when he was in office, things were a lot better. I mean, and do you want examples?
No, thank you. No, I don't want examples. Let's not litigate the past. Let's look forward to the future. What do you think will happen starting January 20th?
What do I think? I think the country's going to be in a better place than it was. And I think it's once we get the energy, if you know anything about economics, it's that the transportation, it's going to cost less to transport this stuff So the prices will come down. And it's not going to come down the minute. Now, you might have been facetious when you were saying that about coming over and watching the prices go down. But they will come down. It just makes economic sense. But I cannot understand this blatant hatred for Trump. What is that? Why is it that you people hate Trump so much?
Okay, I'll open up the phone lines. That's a good question. Thank you. Thank you, Tom from Susquehanna. All right, listeners, why? Why indeed? You can answer. You heard the question from Tom right there. Morning, WNBF. You're on the air. What's your first name? Where are you calling from? I think they knew the answer, but they were afraid that they'd get bleeped. 607-772-1290. Yes, answer the question. Tom posed a very profound question. The only caveat is when you answer the question, frame your response in the form that is fit for broadcast. So you heard the question. Now is the time for all good listeners to respond. Tom asked the question. We will take calls to find out why people feel the way they do. It's Monday morning. I'm Bob Joseph with Binghamton Now on WNBF. Oh, my goodness. 11:43. Let's hit the phones again. See if they work. Gary on the west side. Good morning. You're on the air.
Hold on, Bob. I'm writing down the information so I can order my squatty potty. Okay.
Better get two.
So, did you ever think that you would be broadcasting and it would be a commercial like that before? I know you can't answer that, but all right. So I would like to answer Tom's question, and I want to say this with the utmost respect also. The reason that people don't like Donald Trump is the exact same reason people don't like Kamala Harris. The same exact reason. Now, if I knew what the true answer was, I would be like, I don't know, the amazing Kreskin. But
fortunately, you're still alive.
Unfortunately, I loved Kreskin.
Yeah, me too.
So interesting.
Yeah.
He was so interesting. Oh, I don't know his tricks or whatever because they're all tricks, but it was very interesting. But it's just people hate the opposite side of the politics. It's like, it's kind of like sports, right? Giant fans hate Jet fans and vice versa.
Yankees fans. By the way, Yankees fans don't like Mets fans, or Yankees fans don't like Red Sox fans. And honestly,
that's true.
Between you and me, I've never understood that. Some of my favorite times at Yankee Stadium used to be when the Yankees were playing the Red Sox, and I never understood why people were getting drunk and then pummeling each other because, say, somebody at Yankee Stadium was wearing a Red Sox hat. It's like, come on, man. We're all watching the game. We're watching some of the best baseball players in our lifetime. Let's enjoy the game and stop being angry over who knows what.
Yeah. Now, I don't know about you, but me in sports, right? So I was very, very into it at a younger age. Now, I know it's just sports. It's really meaningless. It's just entertainment. But, it does take up time and stuff that we're not thinking about other things. So, it's a good thing. But I don't have that hatred for, like, I'm a Met fan. I like the Yankees. I'm a Islander fan. I don't hate the Rangers. I'm a Giant fan. I don't hate the Jets, and I like the Bills.
You mean America's team? The Bills, America's team. That team.
They are a very good-looking offense right now. Their defense, not so good, but their offense is looking very good. Very good. But Bob, back to why we hate politicians. Well, because it's just that there's got to be something in human DNA that's, people talk about tribes and stuff like this. It probably does go way back to that. And it's deeply embedded in us that if there's something or somebody different than us, we don't like that. And we have to voice our opinion now. We don't like that and just say that we don't like these types of things. You're different than us. I don't like you. You're weird. I want to get rid of you. You know, this is the way. This is why wars are fought. And we really don't know why, but it's got to be somewhere embedded in our brain. I'm sure there's been books written on it. I haven't
of
read
course.
any of them.
Well, I'm sure books have been written, and I'm sure most of those books have been ignored. When it comes to the way people feel about politics or sports, why some people feel that strong, I really don't care. I just chalk it up to I don't understand it, and I don't care to understand it. It's just there's nothing I can do to change people. And so I accept it. I don't have to like it. I accept it. If you hate some political candidate or some baseball team, if you really hate them, well, good for you. That's all I'm going to say. Can't do anything about
that do for you? What's that do for your life, Bob, when you really hate something? What's that do? Does that make your life happier or does it make your life worse? Because you're always angry or are you always happy?
I would say, I honestly believe that people who go around hating baseball teams or politicians, I usually say... Or people. Yeah. If you're overwhelmed by hate, you got some big problems, I'd say.
Yeah. And sometimes we're not happy with ourselves and we try
Well, that's probably what it is. That's probably yeah, not in every case, but I'm sure that's part of it sometimes for some people. So, hey, if you're angry about any person or team or radio show, well, maybe there's something in your life that needs to be more closely examined.
True. There's so many things in the human psyche, the human mind that we don't understand. And you know what? But we're all human beings.
Sure.
We should just try to get along and be peaceful and respect one another.
Yeah.
And, especially around the holidays.
As the noted philosopher once said, can't we all just get along?
Yeah.
That's it.
That's pretty simple.
Yeah. Appreciate your call. 1148 WNBF with the most love in America. Tom from Endwell, good morning. You're on the air.
Good morning, Bob. Man, there's going to be a lot of people that are going to be disappointed about January 6th. I don't think they're going to be able to take it, but that's not what I called for. What I called for, I thought you'd bring up that Joe Biden commuted a judge's sentence that was involved in Cash for Kids, destroying children's lives, and commuted that judge's sentence. That judge should spend the rest of his life in prison. I think that was an absolutely disgusting move by Joe Biden, and a lot of Democrats believe the same thing. There's quite a few Democrats that are absolutely disgusted with Joe Biden commuting a guy's sentence that was a judge that jailed children, ruined their lives over like the silliest thing. It's absolutely disgusting. And for those who keep cheering on Joe Biden, you ought to be proud of yourselves.
Nobody's cheering on Joe Biden for that. Nobody has spoken publicly supporting that action.
But you guys support a lot of other things that he's in, so you're still supporting that guy.
No, I don't think. Have you noticed? Nobody is supporting him. They were talking about it on the Red Eye Show. Nobody publicly is supporting Joe Biden now. Ever since the election, nobody is supporting Joe Biden. You name one person, Tom, who supports Joe Biden at the moment. Nobody. He's a man. He's a man without a country. Even Jill has been cozying up to Don Trump. We've seen it. We saw what was going on when she had a session there with Trump there. Where was that? France? She looks like she was a lot happier with Don Trump than she does with Joe Biden, based on all the recent public appearances.
Well, she went from classy to assy, you know. She got rid of Joe, and now she's around a guy that no matter where he goes, he people just love him. So, Trump's going to do a lot of good things. And, you got some callers that are so negative on, Trump's cabinet picks. And when it comes down to people hating Trump, remember, the Democratic Party, even Obama, when Trump announced that he was going to run, they attacked him right out of the gate, and they have not stopped yet. And the news, all the news, liberal news media is just saying the same thing, verbatim, every channel, over and over. January 6th was a lie. We know that. Russia collusion was a lie. The dossier was a lie. You had Comey and all them. The scandal on Plan A, Plan B, Plan C to stop Trump. And nobody.
But it wasn't personal. It was just politics. You make it sound like it was personal. It was only political.
Oh, well, locking him up, locking Trump's lawyers up, locking everybody up that's around Trump. Are people missing this? Now you got January 6th, where Democrats are highly involved in January 6th. It's going to come out.
Well, and that's why Biden is considering preemptive pardons. You already heard it on the news, and who could blame him? Because we know Trump has made it clear that he would like some people to be prosecuted, and so why should they be prosecuted? So I wouldn't be surprised if Biden announces another 10, 20, 50, 100,000 pardons between now and January 20th. Why wouldn't he? He should protect his friends and supporters in the face of what is going to be apparently it sounds like there's a lot of retribution planned over the next 4 years.
Well, let me tell you, I hope there's a lot of loopholes in crimes against humanity where none of those pardons will hold. Because COVID, a lot of crime against humanity, January 6th, locking innocent people up, hunting them down, that's crimes against humanity. Locking people down to make a political point for things that they didn't even do. They're locking people up that were just there, never entered. Now that we know that they had FBI agents and all these other people in there. But
the thing is, they didn't, there you go again. They didn't have FBI agents in there. There were no FBI agents in there. There were people who had been informants. There's a big difference between having an informant go inside, because that's what informers do. They inform about stuff they know about. That's the only way you can be an informant. If you're hanging out with the bad people, that way you know what the bad people are up to, and then you let the authorities know. That's the only way investigators can find out what's going on the inside. The FBI didn't send agents in to be part of January 6th.
Bob, did you miss the big thing in Congress? You must have missed it.
Yeah. Well, what FBI agent was in there? Name the names.
They had 26 of them.
No, they were informants. They are not FBI agents. There's a difference between someone who rats out his or her friends and an FBI agent. They're two different things.
No, that's not how it went, Bob.
All right. Well, all right. And what channel was this on? Who had the story?
It was all over the news.
No, I mean, not all over the news. What channel had that specific story? Because I was watching the news all over last week, so I didn't see that. What news organization reported there were FBI agents in the Capitol as part of the mob?
This was like 2 to 3 weeks ago. They've been on the Hill.
Yeah, so just find the story, and then tomorrow call into the program to let me know. You can tell me the specific story and website where it says that FBI agents were part of the insurrectionist mob on January 6th.
They asked the head of the FBI.
Now, don't tell me that they asked him. Find the story and then call me tomorrow with the website and the date that the story appeared.
Don't let me say my point, Bob.
No, you've said your point. You've been on the line now for 8.5 minutes. Okay, no, about 8 minutes. So you've said many points. The only thing I want you to do before you call in tomorrow, find the story so I can see it on my screen. You call in tomorrow, the first thing you tell me, you cite the story, and then I'll punch it up, and then I'll know what you're referring to.
Bob, you got me on at 11:52.
All right. No, I mean, I know. Tomorrow. I know. It's not 11:52. It's 11:56. You came on talking at 11:48:50. That's all the time we have for today, folks. I'm Bob Joseph. Thank you for listening. I'll be back tomorrow on WNBF.